So the movie we're going to be doing today is Peace, Love, and Misunderstanding, and I would like to welcome Chase Crawford, Kyle MacLachlan, and Bruce Beresford to the stage, please. This is Bruce Beresford, the director. Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Here's your.
Hello.
And come on up, Chase and Kyle. The mics are right down there. Yeah, I know. It's very 60s. So we were hoping to have Jane Fonda here with us today, but she wasn't able to come. Perhaps, Bruce, you could tell us about what's going on with your star, Jane.
Did it work? Oh, yes. What am I telling you?
Jane Fonda.
Oh, I'm sorry Jane isn't here. She emailed. She is in Atlanta. She has a virus. It's not serious, but they wouldn't let her fly.
Is she feeling okay?
Yeah, oh, she's fine. In fact, there's a charity screening of this film in Atlanta on October the 4th, and she's running that for us. Yeah.
So this movie is about a kind of clash of generations. Could you tell me about, or if that's not true, tell me about the script and how it first came to you?
Maybe that is what it's about. It's often hard to tell, with films. So what am I telling you?
The clash of generations and the screenplay.
Well, it's about... you see, when I first got the script from Claude Dalfara, the producer, who's here somewhere, who's very shy and unassuming over here, Claude sent the script to my agent, and I read it thinking, what's this? And I sort of read it, but I found it enchanting. It's really about 3 generations of women, a grandmother, the daughter, who's played by Catherine Keener, and the granddaughter, who's played by Liz Olsen, sorry. And it's the grandmother's sort of a bit of an old hippie. She's sort of stuck in a time warp. It's set now, but it's like she's back in the 70s or 80s. And the daughter and the granddaughter go to visit her in the country. We filmed it up in the Hudson Valley. And it's really about the relationships of those 3 women and their various love affairs. And their various love affairs include these 2 men, plus Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and a very talented young boy called Nat Wolff. Nat is here, but he's not here right at this moment.
So Chase, tell me what part do you play in this comedy?
I play the role of a local butcher, actually, who kind of everything's very homegrown, meaning the cows. The cows are very homegrown, well-fed, organic, and him and Lizzie have an interesting sort of clash at first, and then he shows her the ropes, as it were, I guess, in how it's done. So, I think it's about sort of her learning process and sort of getting out of the city, and she learns a lot. It's fun. We had a great time shooting it with her. She's fantastic.
And you, Kyle?
Lizzie. Lizzie. Yeah.
Lizzie couldn't make it because she's at college and couldn't get away because of exams.
Yeah.
She's also got Martha Marcy May Marlene, which is here at the festival, which is an excellent movie.
Yeah, very talented.
She's at school. She's the smartest of all of us, actually. I went to school. You play the butcher, I play the baker, and the candlestick makers. Sorry. Without my character, we wouldn't have a film, I don't think, because actually I divorce Catherine Keener, which sets her on this journey, so I'm really responsible in this kind of a large way, actually, for this
entire trek.
It's a entire trek. No, I'm involved with Catherine Keener in the very beginning of the film. We have a divorce. We have kids, and she heads up to visit Jane and start her journey. So.
And where is Catherine Keener?
Working.
Where is Catherine Keener? I don't know. She couldn't make it for some reason. There's another film of hers on in the festival. I don't know. She couldn't make it for some reason. I don't really know.
So the story, the Catherine Keener character and the two kids show up and find the grandmother who they have never met because they've been estranged.
No, that's right. The grandmother and the daughter, played by Jane and Catherine, have actually had a falling out years ago, and the grandmother has not seen the two the son and daughter that Catherine brings since they were infants. So there's a sort of an attempt at a rapprochement, which they all find very difficult. It all sounds a bit heavy-handed, but I think it's quite done with a light touch, you know. Then these relationships develop. There's another man in it, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who plays the man, the lover who takes over from Kyle.
The earthy lover.
He's the sort of woodworker who lives up in the Hudson Valley.
I could be a woodworker. I could have been a woodworker. Esoteric, anyway.
So you have this sprawling ensemble. Is this a comedy? Is this what genre would you call it?
I suppose it's closer to a comedy than anything. It's a bit of a. I always thought it's a little bit of a comedy in the way that Driving Miss Daisy is a comedy, which people often, always said to me, "Oh, we didn't know it was a comedy," and it is very funny. But I think the comedy comes from the very acute observation of everyday life, rather than being like a farce or a knockabout film. I think it's quite witty. It'll be interesting to see it with an audience, see if it gets any laughs.
I'm looking forward to seeing it myself. Now, did you have Jane Fonda in mind from the beginning?
I think Jane Fonda her name came up very early when I was talking with Claude, and it might have been Claude who suggested Jane. I can't remember. Did you, Claude? I think he did, yes. And I immediately thought it was a wonderful suggestion. I thought at the time that she'd retired from films, but Claude, having had his ear to the ground, and said, no, Jane does want to make some more films. So we sent her the script, and I think she jumped on it and agreed absolutely immediately and called me. Though I never actually met her before we got to the set, because she was making a film in France, and she only got back like shortly before we started shooting, so we talked on the phone a lot. It was the best we could do.
Did she have changes she wanted to make in the screenplay?
No.
Any input? She just said, this is fine with me.
She didn't, no. No, she was happy with that.
And were you ever a hippie, Mr. Beresford?
Was
yourself?
I ever what?
Yes, a hippie.
A hippie? No. No. I was always a real square, I'm afraid. I was in London in the 60s and 70s, but no.
More Austin Powers.
No, I was a bit of a bore.
I dated a hippie, actually.
So Jane calls this a film of love and forgiveness. She blogs about this, by the way. If you've ever seen her blog, it's absolutely a must-read. Is it a film of love and forgiveness? How so?
Yes, that's quite a good description. It is. Yes, that's a major theme of it, of coming to understand and live with people's faults. And in fact, one of the key scenes in it, a scene I absolutely adore, in which Jane gives advice to the granddaughter, which I think she does. That's really the theme of it. And I think Jane does the scene with tremendous insight and compassion. That is the theme.
So, Mr. Beresford, you have been doing great movies for many years, many of them studio pictures, and now it seems that the independent movies are the ones that are being made, that are more compelling, that are more interesting. It's tough to find good Hollywood studio material.
Yes, this is the case. Well, I mean, a lot of the studio stuff these days is sort of genre films. You'll have action movies. I mean, a lot of them, they're very well done. But you get genre comedies, a lot of CGI action films and comic strip films and all those heroes. And the genre I really cannot stand, vampire movies. When you two are offered roles in vampire series, you're not to take them. No. That's not a vampire series you're in, is it?
No, there's definitely not. It's werewolves, Bruce. No. Werewolves. Gossip Girls, werewolves.
You find that a lot of the more, in fact, I would say virtually all of the more interesting films are independently made. I mean, look at the film that won the award last year, the King's Speech. It was an independently made film, really first class. And so many of those films, I think, are so much more stimulating.
So have you guys been able to get out and see any of the movies here at the festival? Have you been able to see other things?
We haven't been here long enough. I don't think. I've had no time.
No.
I've not gone to. I have to
He
leave
only
tomorrow.
just
I want to
arrived.
be here. I want to
This is
stay.
this is not the point. The point is to see movies.
They don't want
I
us
know this.
out seeing movies. They want us to work. We're here to talk and do interviews. And right, Claude? That's what we're doing. See? That's all we do.
Do we have any questions for our esteemed panel from the floor? Anybody have a question for anybody? Anybody at all?
Difficult when no one's seen the film. Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough. All right, go for it.
Can you tell me anything about the production process? Anything particularly interesting or challenging about actually physically making the film itself?
About what?
Physically making the film itself. Anything challenging about it?
Well, you know, it was made in one of the most beautiful parts of the world I've ever been in. It was in the last time I was in Canada, I was filming up in Tadoussac in Quebec in the middle of winter. I mean, compared with that, this film was a snap. We filmed it in summer. Actually, it was hot. We filmed it in summer in the Hudson Valley in this beautiful landscape. And it was not a particularly difficult film to make. I mean, you know, the thing was to make, from my point of view, making sure all the characters, there were quite a lot of characters, that everybody was on track and that, you know, I think one of the things for a director is making sure that the tone of the film is consistent, that everybody's acting in the same style, you know, but it was a good cast.
You had a great cast. And I imagine did you do a lot of rehearsal?
No, I never like to do a lot of rehearsal. I like to do some rehearsal. You know, I like to, when I started directing, I used to think, well, I'll rehearse for a month or 6 weeks, you know, like you do for a play. But then when I started doing it, I felt that the best performance was happening around the table. And I think with films, I like to rehearse for a bit so that we all talk about it, we get to know each other a bit. I make sure that, you know, if the actors have got questions about the characters, which they usually do, that I can explain it, or we make little changes perhaps, and that I make sure we're all on the same wavelength. But then I feel if you rehearse too much, you lose that sort of spontaneity when you're filming. So I changed my mind quite early on about lots of rehearsals. I'd like to do a few days, not too much. Because, you know, you do a shot, so you're only doing to do a shot of even a minute is long.
So Chase, tell us about the contrast between Glee and this. I mean, Gossip Girl and this. Yeah.
Well,
Shows you
singing
how
and
much I
dancing on
watch
Glee,
both
that's
shows.
it. But there's a big contrast. I mean, I guess for look-wise, I wanted to, you know, they sort of cupcake us up on Gossip Girl, so I sort of wanted to sort of change up the look and make it more farmer, and we did with the hair and makeup, and it's real subtle, but I mean, it's one of the biggest compliments I got on it was I look different, yeah. So that was kind of what I want to do there, and I guess the biggest difference is Bruce, as not just inherent with Gossip Girl, but all television, it's a little tighter, you know, as far as
Faster.
lighting's right here, you know, marks, we got it, yeah, faster. Bruce was very easygoing, and I felt this natural sort of. I'd drive up there on like Thursday night, and it was just sort of let go and just go up there, and it was just real easygoing. And Lizzie was great. I mean, it was just a natural sort of scene work, and it doesn't feel like, all right, it's going tighter, now tighter, you know. So have some nice scenes. There were 2 shots and this and that, and it's just nice to work on a film, and well, I got to sort of do the cigarette thing, which was interesting. You know what I mean? To sort of have something to do, and so it was nice to sort of have these extra little things to sort of go with and go for.
And were you impressed with Miss Fonda? I mean, being able to see her do her thing?
I was very impressed with Miss Fonda, even though I didn't have any scenes with her really or any exchange. There was an overlap of days where I got to see her do her thing, and she was just a whirlwind. You know, I think she asked me more questions about myself than I got to ask about her. So that's how she is, and she was perfect. She was perfect. She was involved in every aspect.
We all thought Jane was great.
Yeah.
Good news.
Yeah. She was electric. So.
Any more questions out here? Anybody? Go for it.
Hello. I was just wondering what the budget was and if there was any challenge in raising your financing.
The budget? Well, I don't think I ever really knew the budget. I mean, I just said to Claude, you know, can we actually make this film? And Claude said, yes, Bruce, we can. That's a French accent. Claude is French. I never really queried it. You know, we got in a cameraman I wanted. We had a first-class designer. And we got the actors. You know, I said, I'd like to get these actors and that one. And Claude had a lot of suggestions. And I never queried it. I mean, I was the director, not the producer. So you can... Claude will give you a complete breakdown, I'm sure.
Go ahead.
Ada Wong from Sable Films. Bruce, what attracts you to a story about three women? Because I don't know if it is too centralized on the women part of it. What attracts you to it? Is it...
You mean what attracts me to this particular script?
Particular, yeah. And the other thing is... I'm sorry. I'll ask later.
Oh, well, this particular script, as I think I said before, I thought it was... the characters are very well observed. The script was written by a young couple, Christina Mingott and Joe Majinski, who live in the Hudson Valley. It was their first screenplay, I think, the first one that was filmed. And I thought that the characters are well observed, that the dialogue was sharp, and I liked all the relationships. I liked the interplay between the 7 or 8 leading characters. It was witty, you know. It's one of those scripts, when I first read it, you know, you turn over all the pages. I get scripts sent to me virtually every day, and often I can't get through more about 20 pages before I fall asleep. But this one, you had to read it all the way through. It was good.
Okay. And the other question is, Kyle and Chase, do you both dance and sing at all? I'm thinking
I'll dance
about...
with you.
Huh?
I'll dance with you.
Later
With that
tonight,
hair, I'll
right?
dance with you right now.
I mean, on screen. On screen.
I'm kidding.
Oh, I can dance with you anytime, baby. But for a part, like, will you consider musicals at all, both of you?
Yeah. You want to do one?
Why not? We're all set. What are we going to do?
I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed.
Bruce can direct it.
There are songs in the film, but not... Catherine Keener and Jeffrey Dean Morgan sing in the film.
So Chase, what else do you have coming up? Anything lined up in the way of extra television material?
Extra television material, yeah, exactly. I'm about to finish a film, Lionsgate film called What to Expect When You're Expecting, with Anna Kendrick, who's also here for 50/50. And she's great. All the storylines are a little bit separate, and I'm sure you can glean what it's about from the title, but yeah, it's 4 different couples dealing with pregnancy, and it's very well done. Kurt Jones directed it. It's very well done. So comes out Mother's Day next year.
How about you, Kyle? Have anything?
I'm going to go film a few more episodes of Portlandia in a couple days, and that's what I know so far. And then Bruce is going to put me in his next film.
Yeah. This is the 3rd film I've done with Kyle.
What were the other ones?
We did
Raging.
Mal's Last Dancer, in
Raging.
which he played a key role as a lawyer, and Rich in Love.
Love.
Hey?
All right, Mr. Bryan has a question.
I do have a question. I was just curious, Jane Fonda is obviously a pivotal character, or pivotal figure, I should say, in the 60s. And I was just wondering if once you got on set, how much maybe input she said or had as shooting got underway. Was there any an occasion when she said, "Oh, I don't think we would have said it like that," or something like that, or just how much influence in general during the production?
Well, of course, the film's not set in the 60s. The film's contemporary. But the character is somewhat stuck in the 60s.
She's an old hippie.
Yeah. The film's happening now.
But talk about her character. Talk more about what she's really
Well,
like.
the character, Jane, is something of an old hippie who's gone to the country. It seems that she had a bit of a past in dealing in some soft drugs. And there's a suggestion that perhaps she's still doing it. In fact, there's a bit more than a suggestion.
She's smoking weed.
She's got a marijuana stuff in her basement, and of course, then the daughter is outraged when she thinks that her children are being corrupted. But Jane has the character has explanations for this, which are often, I think, very funny and rather pertinent. And also, she's had a. There's a big scene of an argument between the two women, which I think they both do extremely well, in which they both really pour it onto each other about what they think is wrong with the other one. But I'm not going to tell you that now because it'll spoil it if you're going to the film tonight.
But isn't it often true that one generation reacts completely against the other?
Oh yes, that's in fact, that point is made in the film, that the daughter Catherine Keener plays has become a lawyer. And the mother sees her as extremely stuffy and rather boring.
All right. Any more questions on the floor here? Okay, in orange.
When you have a cast like with Jane Fonda or Kyle MacLachlan or these actors who've almost become icons, do you really direct them?
Hold on one second. This is what he does. We do the scene, and then Bruce sort of turns and says,
I suppose so.
It was all right, wasn't it? I guess so. Moving on.
Yes, I think I react pretty quickly if I think something's wrong. But I usually find with actors, if you cast the film well, and I think this film is cast well, they usually play it better than I would have thought from reading the script. You know, I usually look at the performance and I think, well, that's better than I thought it would be. So what can I say except, well, let's go on to another shot. Let's move on. You know, if there's something really wrong, I'll say so. I'm very careful, I think, about the camera setups. I storyboard the film. So I work it out. So really, I mean, actors, I think, often aren't aware of the fact that the performance is, the tone of the performance is dictated by what the camera is seeing. And so sometimes I'll say something should be stressed more or less because I know that the camera is seeing things more or less well.
Do you like shooting in good old-fashioned 35 millimeter?
Well, this film was done digitally, which is fine. I mean, it was good. It was the first film I'd done digitally. We had the red camera. It doesn't really make any difference, you know. To a director, it doesn't make any difference.
You don't want to run things longer?
No. Oh, that's a disaster. Catherine Keener wanted to do that in some scenes. She said, let me just run it over and over. And I thought, well, we can do that because it's not film, you know. So running it over and over, and I realised almost immediately it was a disaster. Because as they keep running over and over, it gets worse and worse. So we did that once, and I said, stop. And then I said to Catherine, we're not going to do it this way. I said, well, just do the shot, and then I'll say yes or no. I said, rather than you repeating it over and over, I don't like that. But never having done it before, never working with the digital before, I didn't really know, you know. But I quickly found out that it's not to my taste.
And do you have anything else lined up?
Yes, I've got, well, I've been very busy this year. I've just finished directing an opera in Australia of Mice and Men, wonderful American opera. And now I'm doing another one called The Dead City. And then I'm supposed to be going to South Africa in January to do a film called The House Gun.
What's that?
It's from a novel by Nadine Gordimer, who won the Nobel Prize. And it's a wonderful story. And in fact, I'm hoping that Chase will play a leading role for me.
Way to go. Way to go. Well, thank you, gentlemen, very much. This was a pleasure. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.